Good morning, friends. Good morning, friends. Hello, how are you? Hope that the day is treating you well. The sun is shining today, and it is still cool, but not cripplingly so. It is the sun's starting to have a little bit of warmth into it. There's we are that the world is coming alive just as we are coming close to uh, our Easter Sunday and our journey to this week, this Holy Week. Hope you're doing great this morning. Hey, Vicky, good morning to you. Good morning, everybody. Hello, hello. Hey, Donna, good morning. Good morning, friends. Just another reminder, if anybody is interested in our texting service to keep up with what's going on in the church, just there are some instructions on here to be able to be a part of keeping up with the events. That you'll get an occasional text. Hey, Phyllis, hope you're doing grand. Hope you Hope there's some sunshine in your guys' future. At least get a little light on your face. I know winter has been just not wanting to give up lately. So, good morning, good morning. All right, friends. All right, let's get going this morning. It is the 10th day of April on this Thursday at 11:11, and we are on the precipice of entering into Holy Week. And so I want to take some time today and invite you into the overview of what is coming up next week, the story of next week. Um, I mean, we often know parts of it, we know pieces of it, we know significant moments here and there, but what we don't know is, but we often don't take it as a whole, and it really is a whole story. See, that of the accounts of Jesus that we have in the Gospels, of the four Gospels, over a third, just over a third of the entire Gospel uh, um, narrative is dedicated to these 8 days that we're about to come up to. I know it's a week, but it's really 8 days. These 8 days that are going to play themselves out in the events that happen. When we look at Jesus's life, there's this way in which we have the birth narrative, which is, maybe if you stretch it a couple of years, and then you have this big gap of time, and then you have the baptism and the beginning of Jesus's journey from John the Baptist to the cross and resurrection, and that so we have, just first of all, maybe 5 years of his natural life, accounted for, and even in those 5 years, two and you know 2 7/8 of them are are breezed over in the first two in the first 2/3 of the gospel narrative, and then that last sliver, time slows down, everything slows down, and we go into detail about what happens over the next 8 days. And so it it, it if we're it it's worth spending some time looking at, or just taking a day and just contemplating what's coming up next, because what's coming up next really is what it's all about. If it really is, if there's a centerpiece, if there's a focal point, if there's a climax and denouement of the story, it is these 8 days that we are about to come up into. So what happened? So we'll talk about the traditional names of these days, but they really are this one story. The great Wordsworth quote, that we murder to dissect, that we chop things, we take things in pieces so that we can understand things. But in fact, when we look at something as a whole, it actually has a living being to it. So I hope this morning, in these few minutes, we can see this journey as a bit of a whole, versus this event that happened here and that event that happened here, and we can enter into the story, because that's the great invitation of remembrance. It's not just remembering, there was this one time, we had a coffee, or there's this one time that Jesus did this thing. No, it is that we keep these cycles, we keep these remembrances so that we may enter into them, that we may walk through them as the disciples walked through them, as Jesus walked through them, that these patterns that we find in Holy Week, these patterns of of death and birth and resurrection, and these patterns become patterns of our very lives, that in fact they are the very dance steps of our being, that things are broken, that they may be put back together better. So we begin with Palm Sunday. So on this Sunday, and I'll talk a little bit about the stuff we're going to do in the church too. This Sunday we have our traditional tea party this Sunday, and the reason we do that is because what it is a celebration of Jesus's triumphal entry into Jerusalem. Jesus has just, one of the things that is the forecast is that Jesus has just resurrected Lazarus out in Bethany, and people were, and he already had some serious street cred as a prophet and as a teacher, but with the witness of the resurrection of Lazarus, this guy that kind of everybody knew, and that this whole town of Bethany was mourning over. Now, and all of the pilgrims are in for the Passover feast. There's a massive number of people in Jerusalem already. That news spreads like wildfire, and so it's only a few days later that Jesus makes the entry into Jerusalem on that Sunday. He enters in riding on a donkey, that he is as a sign and symbol of some of the Old Testament prophecies, to show that he's not a warlord, that he is not coming in as a dominant and military king, but he is coming in as a servant. So he enters in. The people celebrate his arrival. He goes to the temple and he kind of surveys what's going on, and then he leaves and goes back out to Bethany that night. That the people shout Hosanna in the highest in his arrival. Now, what the thing is what we often miss is what the meaning of that phrase is. It is, God save us. So that the people that are looking to Jesus and on Palm Sunday are looking for the Messiah. They're looking for somebody to save them from the oppression of the temple, to save them from the oppression of the Romans, to save them from this kind of agonizing life in which they are living. So he'll spend the night in Bethany with his friends, and on Monday he will go back into the temple, and he will have one of what we come to know as one of the great moments of Jesus' ministry. He will see that the sacrifices are being brought in, and he sees the money changers in the temple, and he chases them out. They basically have turned as he says, you've taken the house of prayer and you turn it into a den of thieves. So there's this way in which they're making all of this money. They are extracting from already very poor people and in a wage so that they can keep the feasts and keep the festivals, rather than be a way for them to connect to God, which was what the original purposes of the sacrifices were. They have become ways in which they can extract wealth from the people in which they were supposed to serve. And so this is one of Jesus's great moments of anger, that he takes the bullwhip and he flips over the tables, and he creates an incredible ruckus on Holy Monday. He will then go back out to on Tuesday he'll go back out to, or Monday night he'll go back out to Bethany, spend the night in Bethany, and then he'll come back in and he'll notice the fig tree on the way in, and he'll see this fig tree as this symbol of that that his leaves on it, but it's not bearing any fruit, and it's alive, but it is but it's not fulfilling its primary function. And so he uses that fig tree as a symbol of what's been going on in the temple. And the way the people, the owners of the temple, and the people who are supposed to be serving the people, who are supposed to be helping them connect to God, who are supposed to be helping them live and be goodness in the world and keep the commandments, all of those things. Instead, they are like that tree, he suggests, where they are nothing but losing. They're nothing but sucking up resources and giving nothing back. And so the next day, all of the Pharisees and the Sadducees and everybody will come out, and they'll try and play gotcha with Jesus. They'll set traps for him. They'll ask him questions that should get him in trouble, and he manages to best them all. That Holy Tuesday is really this day where he not only has demonstrated in the resurrection of Lazarus his earthly power, but he also comes out with his authority over the temple, that he literally is the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, because he's better. He's more wise. He is more true in his answers, in his way, that all of these people who are trying to play gotcha with the law, it's almost like the great line from C.S. Lewis's Narnia series, where Aslan is where the witch comes to Aslan and quotes the old magic, and she says, "Do not quote the old magic to me, witch. I was there when it was written." And that, I always love that line from Lewis. But it really is what comes to bear in Holy Tuesday, is that when he goes back to the temple, this place he had just torn up the day before, and he takes all of their questions and bests them in the ways that they try to get him in trouble. And on his way back, he stops at the Mount of Olives, and he tells, on the way back to Bethany, he tells the disciples, this is what's going to happen. He tells them what's coming up the rest of the week, that he is about to go through these trials, that he is about to go into the belly of the beast and take on hell itself in the crucifixion. The next thing, and this is this is a beautiful piece, I think, of Holy Week, is we have what is known as Holy Wednesday, or what the theologians kind of dress it up as Spy Wednesday, because the reason is there's actually nothing that happens in the Gospels in this day. Although, so they kind of attribute some things to it. They say that Jesus hangs out with his friends. He hangs out with Mary and Martha and with Lazarus in Bethany. That's what he does. I want you to just consider this for a moment. I mean, there's a million lessons we could take from the Holy Week journey, and maybe millions too few. There are an infinite number of lessons we could take from, if we spent our lifetime simply looking at these 8 days and the way that Jesus contends with all of the things that he contends with, the way he bests hell and death itself. And by the way, when we say death, I don't just mean the kind of death. I mean all the things that kill us. I mean the wasting of time, the idea that we would but everything that takes us away from life, everything that takes us away from life, our own arrogance, our own smallness, our own inability to reach out beyond ourselves, our own all of the kind of our the ways in which we would put more vice than we would virtue in our life. All of that, when we talk about death, that's what we're talking about. We're not just talking about, when we talk about overcoming death, we're not just talking about we get the paddles out, boop, okay, we're back okay, he's back, everybody. No, this isn't an episode of House, okay? That's not what we're talking about. This is about the overcoming of everything that depletes us in the world. And so, as Jesus enters into the center of this maelstrom that he has created, into this he has threatened the powers that be. He has bested them again, both in physicality on Monday by flipping over the tables and breaking down the system and in wisdom on Tuesday. He's he has created this incredible maelstrom against him. And what does he do? He rests and hangs out with his friends. He has joy in the middle of quite literally the most epic battle that has ever taken place, the most cosmic battle that has ever taken place. Jesus hangs out with his friends. Even and it's called Spy Wednesday because supposedly in order for the things that happen on Thursday, all of these machinations have to happen in the background of Judas and the priests and the meeting and all the betrayals. So in order for all those things to happen, they have to get to that. So that's so that's why it's called Spy Wednesday. But really, it should be called Sabbath Wednesday. Like it should be, because it is this. And how amazing is it that, I mean, I think about the stuff I have to do through Holy Week, and my head already spinning in terms of the stuff I've got to get done and accomplished. I can stay up at night and kind of have things gnaw on my head. And here is Jesus in the midst of the greatest cosmic battle ever, resting and having dinner with his friends. Monday, Thursday comes next. So that he leaves Bethany, and he gives his disciples some instructions, and then leaves Bethany to go share the Last Supper in the upper room with them. So it is the Passover Seder meal, which is the remembrance of the Israel's exodus from Egypt, where they are saved by God. It is the symbol of what Jesus is about to do for all of humanity. Jesus washes his disciples' feet, and he breaks bread with them. It is called Maundy Thursday because Maundy is this contraction of mandatum, which is Latin for commandment. And it is the place that we receive the great commandment. A new commandment I give you. While he's having dinner with his friends, while he's having dinner with everybody, while they're breaking the bread, while they're celebrating the freedom that had come to them in Israel's salvation from the Pharaoh and from Egypt into liberation, he gives them this new commandment as he washes their feet, as he serves them. He says, "A new commandment I give you, that you love one another just as I have loved you, and you are to love one another." That is that. And when we say, what is at the heart of this week? That, friends, is what is at the heart of this week. We are able to love one another because Jesus has loved us. Because of what happens in this week, we are able to know love and to love the world and to love each other. That commandment that is put on us becomes a possibility of promise in our life because of the way in which Jesus has reordered the very cosmic influences upon us that happens in this. So they have their dinner. They sing a hymn at the end of the dinner. I always love that part. And then they head on out to what is called Good Friday. Now, this is the day of Jesus' crucifixion. You say, what's so good about it? But it is truly the understanding that God has come to overcome death, and it is good because God fights our battle and overcomes the very brokenness of the world by enduring the brokenness, by taking it on, by singing a victory song on the cross, and in doing so, overcoming death itself. In that taking every single thing, the very worst that all of humanity has to offer, the highest evil, the highest pain, the worst of all things, taking it on. And when I say taking it on, I don't mean just like putting it on like a rucksack. I'm talking also about taking it on as a fighter takes on another fighter. He takes it on and bests it. That they never truly break Jesus. Jesus continues throughout even the greatest of brokenness and persecutions, to be fully loving and to be fully compassionate, even to the pain that is inflicted upon him. At the end, so he's arrested. He meets with Pilate. The Pilate finds no fault in the man, even although the crowd that had welcomed him on Good Friday, they now call to him in and call for his crucifixion. They free Barabbas, the Son of Man, what that translates as the Son of Man, and he is committed to the cross. He's in the crucifixion. He cries out, "Father, into your hands I commend my spirit," and he dies. He's taken from the cross by the women who had stood at a distance, take him from the cross, and they find and Joseph of Arimathea finds a tomb for him in which they will bury him that evening. It is traditionally called Good Friday because from the line in Romans actually is what gives birth to it. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him and who have been called according to his purpose. And that this is the highest good for you and for me. Friday, he is in the tomb, or Saturday, he is in the tomb. They prepared his body, and they've rested it in the tomb that has been prepared there. It is another day of quiet in the biblical narrative, but it is not in the traditional understanding of the church a quiet in the spiritual narrative. For this is the day that Jesus is said to descend into hell to free the captives from hell, and from the very bottom of creation to the very top of creation, ascend and assert his authority. That there is now no place in creation, and when I say creation, I don't just mean the earthly world, I mean the universal world, from the pit of hell to the top of heaven, that is not subject to the authority of Jesus the Christ. And that all may seem like metaphysics for you or a cute story, but it is, as we understand what actually gives way the potentiality of Easter Sunday. On Easter Sunday, the women arrive, to Mary Magdalene in particular, comes to the tomb and witnesses the empty tomb. She encounters two angels, and in it he tells them Jesus is risen. And so it is this day, the overcoming of death in Easter. It is which again, remember, it's not just the overcoming of death, of of the mortal coil, because trapped in the mortal coil, trapped in our created existence, is all the things that would keep us from our truest and most purest and best selves. That all of the things that restrict us, that keep us from knowing the true and the good and the beautiful, and making it a part of our lives and living it out in the lives. Those are the things of death, and those are all the things that have been overcome. Whatever you're struggling with, are you struggling with anxiety? That has been overcome. If you're struggling with despair, that has been overcome. If you're struggling with anger, that has been overcome. It's all been overcome in Easter. And all the way to the very physicality of death, that we're not going to be eternal one day out there in the great by and by. We are eternal right here and right now. We are, as Easter people, humans spirits having this human experience for the glorification and the building of the kingdom of God, both in this world and in the next. And that, friends, is this journey of Easter. Now, there's so many more things in there that happened that I didn't talk about, and that we'll talk about through the course of this week. For us, we will have our tea party on Palm Sunday. We'll finish our biblical lecture on Wednesday night over in New Bedford. On Thursday night we'll have our Monday Thursday service here at church at 7 o'clock. On Good Friday, the church will be open from 1 to 3. We'll have some music going, and it's an opportunity to simply come in and pray. And in the beauty of the sanctuary, to spend some little time in it with some gorgeous music. Much of it Judy will be playing. It's going to be a beautiful day. On Saturday, we're having an Easter egg hunt for the kids and for the community. It's a great day. It's a lot of fun. The Easter Bunny will be there. We celebrate the Easter Vigil, and in that way we celebrate this Holy Saturday, because while Jesus is in the tomb, we know that his spirit is in hell, overcoming all the brokenness. And on Easter we will have our great and beautiful Easter Sunday service. So that is our week that's coming up. That's your week that's coming up. I hope you will live into it. I hope you will step into it. I hope you will walk through the week. There are a number of different ways to keep the week, but whatever you choose. And I know this is a long one today, but I wanted to give us that overview because of the fact that we hear all these little stories. Jesus flipping over the tables, Jesus giving us the great commandment, Jesus besting the Pharisees. But when we see them in this journey, when we see them laid out before us as this story, the one who comes into Jerusalem to rescue humanity, not just the Jews, not even just the Gentiles that are there, but every soul that has lived, every soul that was living then, and every soul that will ever live. Because when we ask, what is the good news of the gospel of Jesus Christ? That's what it is. It is what Jesus has done. It is what Jesus is doing. It is what Jesus will do in overcoming death and bringing life to our world, to our communities, and to our very selves. That's my hope for you as we enter into this Holy Week. Peace and grace to you all, my friends, and we'll pick it up next week with another 11:11.